Welcome to those joining on for the first time. Welcome back to everyone. Looks like a lot of people hung on. I'm so impressed that people want to sit for Noteflight for 2 hours. I mean, I'm excited about talking about Noteflight for 2 hours. But this is our 201 level. So what I wanted to do is I know there's a lot of information, and sometimes people go like, wow, mind blown, right? So I wanted to try to give a good entry overview to everything. I'm going to go back in kind of the same order, and I'm going to go into some advanced features of Noteflight. And I'm really going to kind of jump in all over the place. So I have lots of demos open, lots of different things, and we're going to have some fun and compose some music and talk about advanced ways to talk with our students. So if you're just joining, noteflight.com/learn, the best thing to do is to sign up for this free trial, and you can get going on the free trial, and you'll get 60 days to use Noteflight with your students. You can integrate it with your Google Classroom, with your Canvas, Schoology, Moodle, Blackboard, PowerSchool, etc. You can use it. A demo of Noteflight Learn is the actual product you will be using. We are giving you a trial. We are setting you up for real. And if you choose not to purchase, we turn it off. If you choose to purchase, you keep going with the same thing you already had. So you don't have to, I'm just closing myself out because I'm seeing myself over here, and of course that's distracting. But you don't have to, like, it's not just to try this over here, then get the real thing. We're giving you the real thing. We want you to experience it. We want you to try it with your students. We want to actually have students involved. We're not giving you like a user and a test student. We're giving you the real thing. Use it with your students. See how it benefits them. And that's really important to us, that you use and understand Noteflight on your own. So start with that free trial. You can quote or purchase Noteflight right from this page. Also, if you're interested in Soundcheck, you can go to noteflight.com/soundcheck. It's also linked from Noteflight Learn several times, and you can get sign up for updates. You can get a quote. You can try a demo automatically. So we actually have a demo page of Soundcheck where you can play with Soundcheck content automatically without having to start the trial. So you just want to, we put some different examples up. We'll rotate these examples out, by the way, but you'll have different examples at the top. So you have a real test page that you can play with Soundcheck on your own if you choose. Otherwise, you can just sign up for a demo and use it in real life. Okay, so now I promised you we would jump in the next level of using Noteflight. So let me go in, and this time I'm going to open up a score that I've already have some information on, and let me go in. I'll start with something that has more information, not what news right now. So here's an example of a content library score, but I'm going to use this because I want to dive in. We talked about entering notes last time and all of the basics. Now I want to start with the part formatting piece and how to format individual parts. Now this is an already formatted score, but we can go in and do some changes. So I showed the parts pane on how you can isolate individual parts and you can see them. But let's go in and make some fine-tune adjustments. So say you've composed something in Noteflight, or you've created something like a scale sheet for all of your students, and I'll do that here in a second. But you can go into the formatting panel, and you can always see. Now I'm going to, since the formatting panel is a little wide, I'm using a small screen, I'm going to get my score in view. So one of the cool things, some softwares have the formatting panel that covers up the score, so you can't see in real time how your formatting is affecting it. In Noteflight, you can see in real time how your formatting is affecting it. So notice it defaults to the full score. So all of the size settings, I can show measure numbers on each measure. I can show above each measure. Maybe I want the score to have bar numbers on each measure. Maybe I want to put this in jazz font, right? Now we can play out a tune and there's no excuses. Just kidding, jazzers. But I'll put it back in standard font. So now you can go in and affect the sizing. Maybe I want the score to be a little more condensed. It's already pretty good, but let's just go ahead and say, make it a smidge bigger. Let's move the score up to 4.3. Notice that popped off the second system. So I'll go back and try 4.2. And this is sort of the game you play. You want to get it nice and organized. You can also affect staff spacing, get a little more space between your staves if you want. Notice that did change the settings. You can, of course, adjust this. So again, I'm just going to go and do it. All these settings are available, right? You can affect note spacing, text. So maybe I want the title to be bigger. So we can make the title really big, right? So however you want. So you have all of these text options, right? And you can also affect lyrics if there's lyrics, performance text, chord symbol sizes. You have all these fine tunings. You also have page setup. So maybe I want the score in landscape mode, which is kind of common. I can put the score in landscape. Now, because it's landscape, it's not going to get these two systems. So I might go back and just go ahead and really make my note size real big. Let's say I'm older and need glasses, which I have right here, of course. Now, I've just affected the score. Now, I can go into parts by default, so notice the parts are going to retain their own settings. So now all the parts are selected. I can go in and say, you know what, I want the parts to be real big because I want people to be able to see it. I want to show measure numbers, but maybe I don't want to show measure numbers on every individual line of the parts because I have the rehearsal numbers, right? So any of these settings, because my parts are selected now, I can set to Noteflight. So maybe these composer and lyric size got really big. So I'm just going to adjust these down a little bit, right? So again, and of course, this is in portrait while my full score is in landscape. So notice you can independently format everything. And then I just applied settings to all parts. But let's say my bass player needs like extra help seeing their music. So now I can even apply settings. Well, I just applied them to all the parts. So let me go back. I can select just the bass part. Now, if that's highlighted, I'm only making changes to this one part. So especially because I have a piano in here, I'm going to go in and like make the piano a little different. So again, individual part formatting on everything. And the cool thing is, right, when you go back to this score and you go into parts and everything, let me save this, ta-da, you'll see that here's my landscape score. And when I go into parts, here's my portrait violin, here's my real big bass part, everything I applied is done. So again, you can go in and fine tune all of the formatting if you're really working on like all of your parts and score together, all of this is together. If you'd like to print these, when you go to print in Noteflight, you can print full score, you can print individual parts, or you can print full score in individual parts. So I can hit one button and it'll extract the full score with your formatting in every individual part and it'll print that out for you. Same exact settings apply to PDF. So you can generate a PDF of all of these. You can also have other export options as well as wave audio. You can send to Soundcheck. You can do all sorts of cool things. So that advanced formatting is really key to Noteflight because again, it gives you one URL that you can share with students, but their music is independently formatted. And of course, when you create that Soundcheck score, all of those formatting options automatically apply to Soundcheck. So if you have a musical score, but you're going to create a Soundcheck score and you want the formatting in Soundcheck maybe to be bigger notes and to look differently for the performance assessment side, make a copy of that Noteflight score, reformat it, create Soundcheck, right? You can do all of that together. So now let me go into a couple other options. So there's different views, right? So if you want to go into strip view, you can have Noteflight scroll horizontally. You can also have Noteflight take on like a full screen, a flow view as we call it, and it actually, if I take this out, there's a larger view. It actually adapts to the screen size. Flow view can be great for Chromebooks because you want to use the full screen. A Chromebook is wider than it is shorter. So we tend to think about music in pages for print, but if you're not printing it and your kids are online only, I would really think about flow view, or you can do a custom view. And of course, perform view puts your entire page height in there, and you can use a Bluetooth page turner, or you can tap with your arrow keys to turn pages quickly. So there's a perform view as well, and this works on iPad, anything else, right? Now, as I mentioned, you can customize these page sizes as well. So if I want to go into formatting and page setup, there is all different page sizes, but there's a custom size. So some people, now I know marching bands are not necessarily happening right now, but you want to make flip folder parts where you can customize and make a 5x7 or 7x5 for flip folder, right? You can choose any height in inches or centimeters, and you can create your own custom page version. Sometimes, especially if you're using some on Chromebook and you want Noteflight to keep scrolling and you don't need a concept of pagination, because again, if it's digital only, it doesn't really matter. You can make the height 100 inches, right? And if you could apply that, and then of course the height just scrolls on and on and on, right? And I'll move it back for a second, but it could just scroll on for you. So you can make these custom settings as you need. So just think about using customizing the page to fit the full. Of course, you can zoom Noteflight as needed. So you can automatically zoom to fit, and it'll zoom in your window range. If you open score details, notice Noteflight will adjust itself to fit in this panel as well as you go in your score details options, right? So those are more the advanced features of Noteflight. The other thing I'll talk about as far as advanced editor features, we talked about shortcuts earlier and the ability to use shortcuts in Noteflight, which is really, really key. So we have the ability for you to actually customize your own shortcuts in Noteflight. So if you go down to keyboard shortcuts, there's an option to add your own keyboard shortcuts. So we have our own keyboard shortcuts built in, and those are set right now. But as you scroll through, notice you can see all the shortcuts available. But maybe I just want to be able to press I don't know, W for whole note. Like I don't want to do it. So I'll add something like that. So I'm going to go to add, and I'll type W. Oops, I actually hit shift. I demonstrated some accidentally. So I just put W as a shortcut. And now I can turn anything into a whole note by pressing W. Ta-da, right? So you can customize all of your shortcuts in here. The other thing I'll say is Noteflight, don't worry if you pick a shortcut that's already used, like I'll use S for slur, it'll tell you it's already used, but it will also tell you where it's already used. So you see the error, like the little error message that comes up on articulation, it says, hey, this one's already used here. So you can actually see where it's already used. So the other thing to think about with shortcuts is you could use modifiers. So if I want to do Command S, right, that's already used as well. And so you can see that's used to save, which I knew that. So maybe you want to do Shift S, right? You can see what these are. Now, you can create your own custom shortcut layout for Noteflight and just be rocking and rolling. The other thing we offer is we have this Learn More option. We have our support center on custom shortcuts, but we've created downloadable shortcut guides for you to use. So we have a zip folder, and this will download Excel and PDF files. I have them on my machine, but I'll open them as well. This will download Excel and PDF files, and actually, let me go ahead and see if I can get these for you quickly. Noteflight shortcuts, where are they? Yep, so several. So here's Mac, here's a PDF version, but I'll open an Excel. There's window and Mac options here. So I'll open the Excel version just to show you real quick so you see what I'm talking about. We'll give you a template that you can use, and it shows all the existing shortcuts in Noteflight and all the modifiers. You can create your own desk map for your shortcuts in Noteflight. So if you want to create, here's all of the information and characters available. So you can create your own map and say, you know what, I've made staccato to be this. So just as an option, if you want to create your own custom shortcuts and you want to have the ability to keep track of them on your own, totally available. So definitely check that out. I will tell you, if you're really composing a Noteflight, with a little practice, you can actually just use the keyboard and just fly through composing music in that way. So let's talk a little bit about transposition and concert pitch as another advanced technique, especially with students that are using transposing instruments. This is something that comes up a lot on the editor. So I'm going to talk about how to transpose, but also how to deal with concert pitch. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new score here, and let's make a mess out of something new. I'll start with bass clef, and we'll call this the 201 version, right? So now let's go ahead and start instruments. So I just started with the bass clef, but I can go in and say, I want this to be a trombone, right? So now it's a trombone, and I want to put it in a key. So let's go to the key signature tool, and let's do concert B flat, because that's where we want to start everything, right? At least for band. Strings will start with hashtags for you folks. So now I can go. And like I said before, I can make a quick scale. So here's a quick scale I just made, right? Now, you can customize instruments in Noteflight. So here's another little advanced tip. Let's say you play the bass trombone, right? You do not play that small little thin board tenor monstrosity. I need 2 triggers and I need 16 pounds of trombone in my hand at all times. So if I'm a bass trombone player, Noteflight will let you, control the sound. So I can name the part independently from the sound. It's still a trombone sound, maybe bladdier, that's up for debate, but we'll leave it there. But here's bass trombone, B trombone, and you can go in and do this, and now the part name will be bass trombone. And of course, in formatting, you can have the option of showing part names. You can also show the option of having part names format at the top left or next to the individual staff. So here's another good trick if you don't want the part name to show here. And as an advanced tip, generally you'll want the part name to the left of the staff for the score, but when you format your individual parts, you'll select throwing that part in the upper left, and that's generally what people will do. So here's my bass trombone part name, and now I have this. Now, what if I want to add other instruments, right? So let's do some transposing instruments. So I can search and find trumpet. Now let's say I'm playing an E-flat trumpet, right? So here's another example of, I'm going to create an example of a trumpet part. You can also customize the key and octave of an instrument. So if you have an E-flat trumpet, you can create this, you can the octave in there, and I can go and create an E-flat trumpet part. And now, of course, I'm going to shift copy. So I just copied all that. Now I copied those notes. I'm going to command arrow up to get this in a trumpet range. And it's the E-flat, so I'm going to go up here. Now it's still in concert B-flat because Noteflight defaults to concert pitch, as most notation, because people don't like to think in transpose view. In the score menu, this is where this showing concert pitch, you want to turn this off, right? And so now it correctly transposed. This is going to sound essentially a minor third higher, but I'm going to play a G on my E-flat trumpet, and it's going to sound a B-flat. So I created a custom instrument, and I should probably name this, right? So I created a custom instrument by going in and adding the key and doing the octave. If this was like an E-flat alto sax, I'd want it to sound lower. Because it's an E-flat trumpet and it transposes differently, so I wanted to give an example of how to do this. If you're writing like a double bass part or a tenor part for choral that in treble clef, but you want it to sound lower, you can also change the score octave so it shows in C, but it sounds an octave lower or octave higher. So again, if you're writing a part for piccolo, you'd use flute, call it piccolo, and you would change the octave. Total customization of parts available in Noteflight. So now we can go in and add clarinet. This is going to be a B-flat part, so I'm going to go in. Now, if you click one measure of Noteflight, you see you can highlight the whole thing. I'll highlight the whole thing, ta-da. Now it's a clarinet part. So I can see concert pitch or transpose pitch. Now I show you this because you can build out scale sheets and exercises for your students as they need. You can also teach your students to be able to go in and change the key of the instrument. So if a student gets something and wants to play it on alto sax, they can go search alto sax, and ta-da, now it's transposed for alto sax. Wowzer. I'm going to take that down an octave, but I'll change it back to clarinet. I'm just Command Z, right? So advanced features on the editor, parts, independent formatting, all of that's available. Now, we showed recording last time as far as audio recording. I wanted to show another editor feature when it has to do with audio. And this time I'll show you the option to go in and actually sync a video. So with that, actually, I just thought of something I thought would be cool to show. And since I'm doing this, I can show what I want. So let's say I want to go in and record this particular thing. When you record in multiple staffs, you can see that I can select the stave, and that's where the recording is going to be applied. So if I wanted to maybe record this in multiple parts, I can go and it will record in multiple parts. Now, normally I would use headphones in here, but I'll go ahead and record with the metronome only so you can kind of hear. I'm going to mute. So in the mixer, you see the parts panel. I can choose to record along the bass trombone part. By default, it's going to record that bass trombone, but it'll let you hear the other parts in the score. You have combinations between what's heard and what's seen. Okay, so in the mixer, I can turn off the trumpet and the clarinet, so I'll only hear bass clarinet or bass trombone. Now by default, most people do not want to hear the part they're recording, so by default it mutes the part you're recording. But if you want to like sing along with bass trombone, I can do that. So here's what I'll hear. So I can hit record, and I'm going to record the bass drum part along with it. Da 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 da. Cool, right? So that's going to save and that's going to show. Of course, Microsoft wants to update right now, which is going to be later. So now I have a recording on the bass trombone part. Now, what if I want to do a virtual ensemble with myself? I can go and I can record this E-flat trumpet part. So I don't have one of those laying around, but I've selected the E-flat trumpet. I can choose, maybe I want to play along with the trombone in my ears. Maybe I don't want to hear anything. So you can choose what you want to hear. I've done these where I've recorded the low part and then I've listened up and recorded along with myself. And if I wanted to do that, yes, I will do drum set in a second here. So if I wanted to do that, I can of course record this E-flat part, and let's go back to record mode, select the part, hit start, and it'll play along. Oh, what key is it? Oh gosh. So notice it, ideally I'd be in headphones right now, but I want you to hear what I'm doing. So there's gonna be a lot of feedback in this. Again, not ideal, but with headphones on, you can individually record each part and you can choose what you wanna hear along with that. And of course, what you hear and what you see is also able to be toggled. So I can show all these parts together. I can hear everything, but maybe if it's a really long score and I only wanna see that clarinet, I can just look at the clarinet, but I can hear everything involved. And notice you can see that John Malenzak has recordings on these parts, and you can go in the parts and you can mix the level of audio. So once I get all these recorded, I can actually mix my audio and balance it out. So you can use Noteflight to make a full score recording of yourself, or students can share with each other. Students can record duets with each other. All of this is available. So I just want to make sure I talked about the balance of that. Now, before I talk about syncing YouTube videos, I want to go in and I want to show another Noteflight feature, which is I want to talk about percussion writing, because someone made a good point. I haven't talked about writing percussion yet. So let's call drums. So I'll actually go into categories. So we have obviously all the pitched instruments, but unpitched percussion, we have individual drums, we have marching band. So we actually let you know if it's cymbals for marching band or etc. And we have tenor drums for marching band in here as well. So different snare samples. You have 1, 2, and 3 line staves, but I'm just going to do a standard drum mapping. We also do, Berkeley has its own drum mapping, and we have that involved as well because Berkeley uses us. So now I'm going to go and put a drum part, and actually let me get rid of this clarinet part just so I can show how this works. So with drums, you have this basic mapping, and I'll do a simple example. You can scroll to hear the different sounds. Right? So one thing that's common with drum writing, let me just repeat this, this is very little basic beat here. One thing that's common with drum writing is you end up wanting to use multiple voices because you have multiple rhythms. So choral descants, SATB, SA on the same stave, you can do multiple voices in Noteflight. So I'll show you in guide. I know the shortcut is upper and lower, but I'll just go, you can search like, how do I do voices? I know John said something, and there's upper voice and lower voice. So there's a voice section where you can choose. So by default, Noteflight is going to be in the lower voice. So I just hit U, and notice it gave me a whole rest in the upper voice. So I'll do that again because I might have done that too fast. I get accused of talking fast. I'm going to select all the measures, and I can either go in the voice section and select upper, or I can just hit U. Sorry, I keep clicking out of it. I'm trying to demo. And now, let's say I want to ride a hi-hat on top. So now, let me go add 8 notes on the hi-hat. I just knew that that area is hi-hat. And now I can go in and just add this rhythm. Oh. And I'll have to go over the next measure and of course add my upper voice here again as well. And then you can go in and do the same thing. Or since I've already edited this, I'll go back. Now, here's a common little thing I actually undid. And so Noteflight, you can break beaming. So by default, we're going to beam together. And of course, I deleted and re-added, so I did individual. So you can actually control the beams in Noteflight as well. And this is another sort of really more advanced feature. But the cool thing here is that in this, there's a start beam and continue beam option. So I can start beam and connect these beamings, or I can make them independent by selecting this option. If I want all 4 of these to beam together, I can of course go back into my rhythm section and I can just connect the beam, and there's my beaming. So I'll do this for all of these, and I'll connect beams. So if that's how I want it to look, I can get it right, and then of course I could repeat this measure. And that would be sort of standard drum writing. Other things in drums are trills or rolls. So you have these options as well. And you can of course add all of these independent rhythm things with different slashes. You can do tremolos. Here's your roll option. So you can add the roll. You can also add different versions of tremolos in here. So I can add a roll to this note and it would play back as a roll. One other thing with that I just like in Noteflight, I could go on the editor all day. Maybe this is another webinar. Is adding triplets, right? So one cool thing about any duplet or triplet, Noteflight will split the duration of what you select. So if I want to add like a quarter note triplet, I would add a half note or half rest, doesn't matter. And then I'd go down to duplet or triplet, and of course the shortcut would be 3, and it's going to split this into 3. So it's really easy to create these sort of duplet inversions. So if I want a quintuplet, the quintuplet is created for you to add the notes within the value selected. So if I wanted a quintuplet created within a quarter note value, I could just do that and bam, it creates it for you, right? Pretty cool. And then you go in and you can individually change all these notes to a rest to a note. Okay, a lot of Noteflight, very little time. So I want to show audio syncing. So I'm going to kind of bring this all together. I'm going to go into the content libraries, and I have a little demo set up here, and I'm going to grab a pop song. These pop songs are fun because they're really easy trumpet or any instrument and piano solos or voice. So there's one in here I'm going to search for called Sing It in the Rain. Let's see if I can find it by rain. And I'm going to open up Sing It in the Rain as a content library score. I'm going to check out a copy. So we have this little option in here, right? And it starts with the doo-doo-dee, doo-dee-doo-dee, doo-doo-dee, doo-dee-doo-dee, doo-dee-doo. So now, if you want to link this to a YouTube video, there's a really cool feature where you can actually sync to a YouTube video. So let's say I want to play this melody on trumpet, and I'll kind of go through this quickly. I'm going to go into parts, and I'm going to say I want to play trumpet in the rain. So I'm going to change this from the default part to a trumpet. And now this voice part is in the key of a trumpet. And let's say, I'm using chord symbols right here. So of course the chord symbols show. Another great feature about chord symbols is you can change them. So if I want to go in and change these chord symbols to be different, like so for example, you can show chord diagrams for either guitar or ukulele. So if you want to take any of these guitar frames and use them with your ukulele ensemble, once diagrams are inserted, you can change them to ukulele. So you can do that as well. So for folks that are doing that, but let's say it's an instrumental, another option here that's really valuable is filter selection. Let's say I want to select everything in here. So I can go and filter, and I want to grab all my chord symbols, and I just want to delete them. So chord symbols, and I want them gone. So I just filtered all of those out. Now these up here are attached to the piano part. So let's say I want to create this like trumpet only singing in the rain melody. Ta-da, I've done it. I've filtered it all out. Now I want to make this a play along. So I'm going to go, and this is one of my favorite things, is sync audio. We're going to sync this with a YouTube video. And you can do this with YouTube or you can do this with any other sort of hosted audio you have, but we're gonna go ahead and use YouTube. So I have this video pulled up. I'm gonna copy the URL and try to figure out what tab I was in. I'm gonna pop it in here, and we're gonna load that in. And I'll close this menu. So now this loads up. So you can actually sync and tell Noteflight how to follow this melody. So I'm gonna get this going, and then what you do is you actually are training Noteflight to follow the YouTube videos. So you tap each measure and you set the playback sync to the video. So I'm gonna start this video. And one of the things about this, and I probably should have picked another example because it's going to take a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and start it. And you sync it up. So when this actually starts, and it actually starts several seconds in, so I'll vamp until it goes, you can go in and sync this up so it follows exactly right. This way you'll have a video and audio score thing. This is also a great example for students who want to maybe record themselves and even have the ability for them to see it recorded. So let's go in and see where this starts here. I love these things. And once I get this synced up, you'll be able to collect any measure. So I know this is going to come up. I'm going to go ahead and get it started until it. And you just tap around. I actually wanted to show an example where the YouTube video starts because generally they don't always line up. So I want to show you can grab that section. And I'm just hitting M, syncing it up. I won't do the whole thing, but the musician in me has to get to at least some sort of half cadence or something there. So now I've synced up this first part. So now when I go hit play from this measure, it starts, and I can jump ahead. You have it completely synced up. I can even get the video up top, and I can go into strip view and create a scroll along, play along version that links up with the YouTube video, right? This is really, really amazing, especially right now for students in distance learning and different opportunities. I mean, the ability for them to compose something to a video and have it sync up is really, really awesome. Now, to just go like total next level, I can record my playing and I can mix audio recording and synced video, right? So just kind of see where, so I can go in and audio record this, and then you'll be able to mix the part. Notice the YouTube track shows up as its own part, right? And then if I record trumpet, I can mix trumpet level and I can mix it all together and it will all line up. And it's just a really, really great example of making these play-alongs. Think about jazz and like having a lot of like the solo along with someone. You could like improvise a solo in Noteflight with the chord changes along with the track from the YouTube video and put it all together and mix and edit it all in Noteflight. So very, very, very cool. Wow, I am running out of time and I hadn't even got to all the crazy advanced stuff. So content libraries. I wanted to show a couple examples of how to use content libraries besides just using the content as is, which is great, or even transposing it. One of the things with content libraries is these are fully, published existing pieces. So they serve as a great basis for composition exercises. I'll just grab a random example here. So let me go into piano, for example, and let me find maybe one of these I'll grab easy piano solo, bad music writer. Let me see if this is a good example. I didn't have one pulled up already. So not a good example. Let me try another one. One of the things that I like to do, let me see if easy piano solo will be it. So let's grab classic minuet. Here's a great one. So here's a basic bass line, right? So I want to take this and I want to create a composition exercise out of it, right? Because I have a simple baseline here. What if I want students to compose a melody to a bass line? Or in this case, what I would do is just delete the notes from here and say compose a bass line that supports this melody, and maybe enter the chords later. So you could take any of this content and use it as the basis for creating your own composition assignments so students can explore how these go together, right? And I can go in, add text, show prompt, and immediately I can go compose a bass line, right? And I would simply do that. I guess bass line, oops. And of course, from a formatting standpoint, we've shown this already, but I do want that prompt to be a little bigger. So I'm going to go into text. I'm going to make the prompt bigger so my instructions are very clear for students. And then they can compose a bass line. I would go in, I would share this with my students, create that activity template like I showed before, and ta-da, you have an assignment that all your students can open and compose along with. And again, once they compose it, we can create Soundcheck and we can play that as well. So the other thing I wanted to kind of show is we have all these sight reading examples in the content library. So I wanted to go back and also talk a little more about Soundcheck, that we have a dedicated Soundcheck webinar a week from today. So we'll talk a lot about what I'm about to show and ideas for taking composition and performance assessment and blending them. But let's say I took this straight out of this is straight out of the Noteflight Learn content library. You can change the instructions. So maybe I want to include my instructions in Google Classroom or something like that. But maybe I want to make a sound check, or let's say that I want to go in and make it a little trickier, right? So this is also something students can adapt. If I want to transpose this, I'm actually going to take the key name out of here because as soon as I transpose it, it's not going to be relevant. Transposing in Noteflight is done in the pitch menu. So you can go into transpose and you can go up or down by interval. So it was an E flat. Maybe I want to be really mean and try to get it like in G flat or F sharp. Let's see what up a minor third does. So now, aha, awesome, right? So here it is in F sharp, total sight reading, right? Now let's take this and you can adjust it as needed and you can create a sound check out of it, right? So you can make the assessment hard, make number of attempts 1, and now I've grabbed a sight reading example. You could have composed this, students could have composed this for themselves. This could have been done in a number of different ways, but now you can turn this into sound check and you can assess it. Now you can assign this to your students as well. Once you create a sound check, right now I'm creating it for myself, so this sound check score will be mine to use, but you can also assign your sound check score to students and you have the ability to change the settings, and I can actually show you that real quick. So here is a sound check score I've created already. Now I can go share this out and I can change the settings. So when you create a sound check in your account, you may say, you know what, I'm just going to give unlimited attempts, but I want to assign this to my beginners. So I'm going to make this easy, give them a comfortable goal, but I'm going to give them 5 tries. So when you share that score, you can change and make those settings whatever you'd like to make those, and that's what you share with your students, right? So of course you can send it as an options activity template, give all students access, and now I've created an assignment that allows you to share this, and it has different settings, and that's actually a really, really valuable thing. I will also say that students can do this as well. So a student can create a sound check for themselves, and you see this is already rendered, and a student can now share this out with others and say, I made this in F sharp, I challenge you. Now, let's put me on the spot and see how if I can remember what F sharp is and how many hashtags to play out of this. So I'm going to go into my sound check settings. I'm going to make sure the metronome's on. I'm going to turn the cursor off. No cursor help. I got to do it without the cursor. So let's go in and see, make sure we can hear the metronome here. It'll give me a count off. 1 attempt only. Got to save what I get. Here we go. Oh man, I want to. You know what? That's okay, because you know what? It's too slow. So let's take the tempo and maybe let's bring the tempo up a little bit. So let's bring it up to 110 and see what that does. You can also kind of change the tempo. Now, of course, that was my last attempt, so I totally messed this up. So I need to go back and create another one. I ruined my attempt by closing out, and so I fail as a student. no big deal. I can go back to my Noteflight, and this is actually a perfect example of a live demo gone awry. Don't stop your one shot. You've got one shot, just like that Eminem. So I'm going to go back to my Noteflight score, and I'm just going to do it again, right? You can create another Soundcheck score. No harm, no foul. Go back one time. This time, though, tell you what, just to kind of, I'm going to go ahead and change the tempo. So I'm going to go into the tempo setting, and I'm going to make the Noteflight score, because we're going to take the tempo of your Noteflight score and create a Soundcheck out of that. So you can, of course, change it later, but let's just make life easy and do it now. So let's go back to one attempt, hard, got to get an 89 or higher, just create it again. So you can create as many as you want. So you might want to go ahead and like render this score as a Soundcheck in F sharp, transpose it to G, make a Soundcheck in G, transpose it to A flat. You can go ahead and just render all your Soundcheck scores right away for your students, and they can have them in all the keys automatically done, right? So it's already created the Soundcheck score, and now I'm not gonna stop. I'm just gonna make sure that I turn that cursor off again because I don't like seeing it. Last attempt, here we go. Almost missed the E sharp, but last minute I got it. So check it out. I did it. Save, done, ta-da, right? I actually was sharp there. That's pretty common for me. But even though it gave me an attempt, it also gives me feedback here on this, right? So create assignment, give yourself, you can always go back. My teacher will see this, and they can go in and see I did it. You can listen to your recording, right? I can go back here and just listen to my recording. I'll turn this down a little bit. So you can go in and hear your attempt. I'm going to go in tracks, and I want to hear the matched recording option. Oh, I totally fumbled that. I should have got a 96. I would have given myself that. And that's the other beautiful thing too, right? As a teacher, I'd listen to this and say, hey, feel good about that, but here's the deal. Like those notes were not clear, so clear it up. So you have the ability to go in and do comments and additional feedback with Soundcheck. Notice I can listen to this as much as I want, but I cannot record another take because my attempts are all used up, right? So again, lots of options to combine that. So just with that, if there are any other questions you want me to answer, I'm going to start wrapping up unless there's something that I need to go into. With choral, I did want to mention, I think I showed earlier, but for choral folks watching, you can always isolate individual parts of a solo. Notice this is a solo with SATB and piano, and all of these parts are individually formatted out, so you can go in and see these. And with choral, I mentioned earlier, but I'll say it again, that you can go and choose those tracks. So I can record with the full backing track, so I can now sing the solo, but I could hear all of those individual parts behind me, right, and have that pitch. If you wanted to create a version of this that doesn't have the individual parts, you could always go into Noteflight and edit the content library scores. So I took this earlier. I was going to show it here. This is the essential elements content we're adding, so you'll be able to get essential elements in here as well. But I'll show an example of, like, here's an orchestra piece for, multiple parts. I started in Noteflight, and I went ahead and took that content library score, and I isolated just the violin one part, and I created the melody. So I used that to create a violin and piano part that I can then play along with. And again, I can go in and create a Soundcheck score out of this. Now let's do this real quickly. So what I was trying to do here is take an existing content library score that I checked out. I edited it for my needs, right? And I created this violin and piano solo because we can take the melody. So the great thing about Noteflight is everything in Noteflight is editable. Everything is adaptable. I think sometimes we're used to like pull down the content, assign it, use it. You can totally do that, but there's possibilities here that me as a teacher, I've never seen before possible with anyone else. Like the true ability to toggle between performance assessment and composition tool to have composition activities that can turn into writing melodies for each other and go through that. So you have all of these options here, right? And I can use this as a play along. I could record the violin part. I could play along with piano. For piano and guitar folks, I will mention that Soundcheck does handle polyphonic, so I could actually assess myself here. But I can go in, of course, select my part, and now I can go play this. And if I wanted this part, actually, I would go back and reformat the part in Noteflight and regenerate Soundcheck because I like formatting a lot. But I can go in and record my assessment on this melody, and I can even, in this case, I'll show an example of playing along with that backing track, which it's going to do, and I can go in and record this, right? And it's going to know it's because the backing track's there, it's really telling me to use headphones. It knows it's using the computer audio, and it's going to be a bad experience. I won't go on and on, but you can hear the piano and violin there. So notice that this is a good example to show of Soundcheck. It rated the pitch and rhythm of what I did, but it also said you didn't play the whole thing, right? So this cumulative score is based on what I did perform, but it's not going to give you a full green you did it until you actually play everything selected. So here's my example. I was hoping it would hear how sharp I was on that G, but maybe I wasn't. Of course I was flat on the D. It's a D on trumpet. Of course it's flat. Anyway, I've been playing with Soundcheck so much, and it's been fun to get a lot of feedback here. So with that, we're coming up on the hour. Lots of information I know. Just to recap, Noteflight Learn has just, I mean, I would say limitless possibilities of composing, creating composition, theory, activities from very early, simple, here's a few notes, color code them for elementary, all the way through college level, figured bass, full compositions, band, choir, orchestra, anything like that, and everything in between. We try to make the Noteflight editor easy. There's all these formatting features so you can make your scores look super professional, but you can also compose and get going by entering notes right away. You can use all of the content in the libraries in Noteflight. You can, in Noteflight Learn, you can access those. You can edit them, use them for your needs. Think outside of the box. Think about how they can be used for composition. Think about how they can be adapted. Take an orchestra arrangement and then try to rearrange it for 5 instruments in band, or take a choir arrangement and play it in an orchestra. So think about having kids just rearrange music and be able to use it. Think about the combinations of transposing instruments and transposition and how those all fit together, because with all of that, students, you can unlock the ability for students to grab a piece of music and play it on their own. Of course, anything in Noteflight flips into Soundcheck, so then they can get performance assessment, which can then be shared back, right? So I know there's a lot of then and then and then and then, but it's really important to us that Noteflight can be used for assignments, but music should be created and shared and collaborated. So at the heart of Noteflight is collaborating around music making and the assessment. So anything, if a student composes or gets something and creates Soundcheck and does that recording and gets a high score, they can share that with the choir group, or they can post that in Google Classroom and say, hey, look, listen to my thing, listen to my recording, because that computerized assessment is great, but it's not perfect. And so students can further share, and other students can access and listen to their final product and give them feedback, right? We want to create an environment where collaboration and feedback is at the heart of everything, and it blends composition and performance seamlessly all in one place that integrates with the systems you already use. And so I'm excited that we had a lot of time today where I got to demonstrate a lot of these more advanced features. Don't forget about the YouTube sync and some of the other pieces involved. So lots of cool opportunities at Noteflight. We hope you'll try it out. Free trial, sign up at noteflight.com/learn, get that free trial, start using content, Soundcheck, Noteflight, and thank you so much for joining. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Everyone will get a certificate as well as a recording of this entire webinar about an hour after we close this off. So have a wonderful, safe fall. Thank you for all you're doing to keep your students safe and to keep music education going in these times. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.